On the 20th day of Aaron and my Cold War, he posted an Instagram photo holding hands with the campus beauty. Silently, I changed my university choices to a school in City A, miles away. At a party, one of his friends teased, "Regina, if you don't make up with him soon, Aaron might really end up with someone else." I whispered, "I'm sorry." Aaron curled his lips. "Forget it. Go pack your stuff. We'll head to school together tomorrow." I nodded absently. Aaron didn't know I'd already bought a ticket for the overnight bus to City A. I'm the daughter of Aaron's housekeeper. When I was 7, I moved into the small room on the first floor of their house. My job was to take care of his every need. For 10 years, Aaron became a task etched into my bones. I was obedient and well-mannered, earning frequent compliments from his mother. Aaron, however, despised me. The first time we met, he stood on the stairs in a white shirt and tailored shorts, looking as refined as a porcelain doll. I wore a ragged, gray dress with holes in it, staring blankly at everything around me. The disdain in his eyes was unmistakable. Madam introduced me. "This is Regina, Mandy's daughter. Her father went missing, and she has nowhere else to go. Mandy brought her here." He said nothing and turned upstairs. Madam told me my job would be to look after Aaron. My mom reminded me the family was special and letting me stay here wasn't easy. Talk less, do more, and never make Aaron angry. I knew Aaron didn't like me, so I tried to make myself invisible. Quietly, I helped organize his clothes and tidy his room. For the first 3 months, Aaron didn't say a word to me. That year, he fell ill. Madam was in a bad mood and went abroad on vacation. The family doctor prescribed him medication, but his cough persisted through the night. I remembered my grandma making pear stew with Sichuan peppercorns for me when I was sick. When I brought the bowl to Aaron, he glared at me in disgust. "Regina, are you trying to poison me with some random country recipe?" Timidly, I replied, "It's not poison. The pear helps with coughing." Aaron looked annoyed. "If it doesn't work, will you leave my house?" I froze, standing quietly to the side. Aaron sneered, but he drank it anyway. The next morning, his cough improved. Before elementary school enrollment, my mom found a boarding school for me, though it was quite far away, and I could only come home on weekends. I felt relieved. Being away meant my mom wouldn't feel awkward working at her employer's house, and I wouldn't have to endure Aaron's mood swings. As I packed my things and waited for the bus, my mom rushed over, panting. "Madam wants you to attend the same school as Aaron. Take care of him there." I muttered under my breath, "Can I not go?" Mom grabbed my shoulders. "Are you crazy? Aaron's school is the best in the city. People would kill to get in." I lowered my eyes and said nothing. From then on, I became Aaron's shadow. I followed him from elementary school to middle school, carrying his books, getting his lunch, and even helping with his homework. Everyone knew I was the tail he couldn't shake off. In middle school, Aaron made a lot of friends. I became the distant tag-along, always trailing behind the group, watching his moods, anticipating his needs. His friends teased that I was his most devoted admirer. If Aaron told me to go north, I wouldn't dare head south. But his disdain for me never changed. In 9th grade, he dirted a jacket he liked while out with friends. He woke me up in the middle of the night to hand wash it. Wearing only a camisole nightdress, I blushed furiously. He scoffed, "With a figure like that, no one would bother looking." A seed of adolescent insecurity was planted in me. In high school, the pressure to study skyrocketed. I spent all my time buried in books. Aaron, on a whim, demanded I cook for him. Every night, I'd make his meals, then wake up early to bring them to school. One lunchtime, as I handed him the reheated meal, one of his friends joked, "You've got it good, Aaron. A little wife making you lunch every day." Aaron's expression turned cold. He tossed the lunchbox to a classmate without a second glance. I said nothing, quietly washing the empty box after they were done, then went back to studying. That year, my body began to change. I hated running during gym class, but couldn't skip it. Unlike Aaron, who spent gym periods on the basketball court, exempt from teacher scolding. During my runs, boys would whistle at me. I slowed my pace. One day, Hardy from the next class walked over and handed me his jacket. It caused a stir. I'd seen Hardy at the opening ceremony. His family owned a famous business, and he was the epitome of refinement, excelling in both looks and academics. Put this on. You still have a long run ahead. After a moment's hesitation, I accepted. Later, someone spread rumors that I shamelessly seduced Hardy by wearing his jacket. Aaron, sitting in the back row, kicked over his desk with a loud bang. The room fell silent. That evening, Aaron didn't wait for me to leave. You're so capable now. Let Hardy take you home. I sighed and took some change to catch the bus. Unexpectedly, Hardy was there, quietly listening to music. He waved at me. I sat beside him, whispering an apology for the trouble caused by the rumors. Hardy smiled kindly. Don't mind the gossip. Just focus on studying. Graduation's soon, have you decided which college to apply to? Hardy had a gentle, elegant face, a stark contrast to Aaron's sharp, commanding features. For a moment, I was stunned. Where did I want to go? I'd never thought about it. I only knew I had to keep improving my grades. Without money for tutoring, my mom borrowed Aaron's notes from me. I had to admit he was smarter than me, often grasping concepts on the first try while I needed repeated practice. His notes were helpful. Mom suggested I follow Aaron's lead when applying for college. They have money and connections, his choice will definitely be right. But I had no idea where Aaron would apply. Hardy smiled softly. Think about where you really want to go. That night, I browsed university options online. For the first time, I realized I could leave this place and find somewhere I truly belonged. When Aaron came home past midnight, his hands were stained with blood. He glanced at me indifferently before heading upstairs. I hesitated, asking softly, "Do you need first aid?" He didn't respond, disappearing into his room. I continued researching schools. For the first time, I felt clear, I could leave here and make my own path. Later, I nervously asked my mom, "Have you ever thought about leaving here?" She seemed uncertain. After divorcing my dad, she'd worked for Aaron's family ever since. Despite Aaron's temper, Madam was relatively kind. Over the years, I'd never seen Aaron's father at the villa. From bits and pieces, I learned he was busy running a massive company. His parents' marriage was a business arrangement, and his father had a mistress shortly after Aaron was born. Madam kept busy with work and frequent travel, leaving my mom to manage the house. Mom planned to work there until I graduated, then use her savings to start a small business. Quietly, I asked if she'd consider leaving after I finished high school. She touched my head silently, saying nothing. After the school uniform incident, Aaron started coming up with ways to torment me every night. Sometimes, he'd ask me to bring him water or tidy up his desk. Other times, he'd have me change his bed sheets or wash his clothes. At least I was no longer sharing a room with Mom, this saved her from worrying. Aaron wouldn't sleep until I finished all the tasks he assigned, and until then, I wasn't allowed to rest either. I had to keep busy, always in his line of sight. There were times when I couldn't hold back my exhaustion and dozed off, only to wake up on the couch in Aaron's room. By the time I woke, he'd already be gone. I started commuting by bus instead of letting him give me a ride. It took longer, but I felt a sense of relief. I fantasized about completely falling out with Aaron, maybe he'd stop bothering me altogether. But I knew that wasn't realistic. To distract myself, I threw all my energy into studying and stopped trying to please him. A week later, Aaron had a basketball game. I used to prepare drinks and fresh clothes for him before his matches, but this time, I stayed in the classroom to study. Then Mom called, saying Aaron had been in a bad mood lately. His mom, Mrs. Zhao, wanted me to take better care of him and even had desserts sent to the basketball court for me to bring over. I reluctantly went to the court, carrying the box of desserts. As I sat by the sidelines, a few classmates started giggling and whispering. "I told you, she can't resist. The moment Aaron ignores her, she freaks out." Yeah, pretending for a few days, but she couldn't hold out in the end. I ignored their comments. On the court, Aaron jumped for a shot, drawing loud cheers from the crowd. He glanced at me briefly, then motioned for me to distribute the desserts. I handed them out, starting with everyone else. Finally, I approached Aaron with the last piece. He leaned back on his hands, giving me a mocking look. Standing in the sunlight, I extended the dessert toward him, enduring the ridicule around me. In a small voice, I said, "This is for you." Aaron didn't look at me, his tone casual. "Bring it closer." My hands hurt, it stings. I unwrapped the dessert and handed it over. Aaron took a couple of bites, ignoring the teasing whistles from his friends, merely giving a nonchalant smirk. I couldn't understand what he was trying to achieve, until I turned and saw Hardy sitting across the court. Could Aaron be competing with Hardy? Both of them came from wealthy families, excelled in academics, and were undeniably attractive. Comparisons between the two were inevitable. It was surprising to see Aaron, who usually didn't care about others, paying attention to Hardy. But I didn't dwell on it. If Aaron was in a good mood, he'd leave me alone, and I could finally get some rest. In the months leading up to college applications, Aaron turned 18 and threw a birthday party with his friends. The party was lively, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, until Aaron stepped away to take a call. He came back furious, smashing several bottles of liquor. The room fell silent, and no one dared to breathe too loudly. A friend tried to comfort him but got yelled at, so everyone quickly cleared out. I was on edge, trying to slip out unnoticed, but just as I reached the door, Aaron's cold voice stopped me. "Regina, get over here." I froze, startled, and reluctantly walked toward him. Aaron smirked. "What are you so afraid of? Do I bite?" I shook my head quickly. "Where's my gift? You came to my birthday empty-handed?" I did bring one. But when I saw everyone else's fancy gifts, I didn't want to take it out. Nervously, I pulled out a pen I'd bought for 60 yuan, a far cry from the designer items his other friends had gifted. Aaron scoffed. "Impressive. Socks 2 years ago, shoes last year. I thought you'd bring underwear this time, but instead, you gave me this?" Embarrassed, my face turned red. I'd planned his gifts carefully, socks the first year, gloves the next. But after he mocked the socks, I'd saved up to buy shoes the following year. This year, I was saving for college tuition and could only afford a pen, albeit one with a decorative flower added by the shop owner. "I'm sorry," I murmured. "I didn't mean to upset you." Aaron sneered, "As if this is the only thing you've done to annoy me." Then he crooked his finger. "Come here." I hesitated before shuffling a step closer. Aaron reached out, pulling me forcefully into his lap. I froze, his head resting against my shoulder, his breath scalding against my skin. I tried to push him away, but he tightened his grip. He buried his face into the curve of my neck, his lips brushing warm trails over my skin. "Aaron," I stammered, panicking. He seemed dazed for a moment before biting down on my neck, sending a sharp pain shooting through me. Pinned down, I had no choice but to endure it. After what felt like forever, he released me, his expression calm again. "Regina," he said slowly, "if you tell anyone about this, you're dead." I was fuming, touching the bite mark on my neck. Aaron, however, acted as though nothing had happened. Before I left, he told me he was going to apply to a university in B City. The bite marks on my neck meant I had to wear a scarf to school, and I almost got caught by my mom. She had recently learned from Madam that Aaron was applying to that school, so she kept urging me to follow him. She even asked Aaron for advice on the materials needed for college applications. Aaron patiently explained everything to her. "He's different around elders than he is with me. I guess he thinks I'm easy to bully." Madam also said it'd be a good idea to apply to the same school for some extra support. His family owns a villa near the school. She even mentioned that Aaron had already renovated the place from a distance 2 years ago. I could stay there too when I go. I always obediently agreed to whatever she said. As for where I would go, it didn't matter to Aaron. There was no need for me to reveal my thoughts. Time passed slowly, but thankfully, Aaron had been more stable emotionally this year. He didn't try to cause trouble for me over every little thing. That gave me more time to prepare. After all the exams were done, my mom and I spent my 18th birthday in a little cubicle. A small cake and my mom's well wishes. And the joy of finally being free to leave. It felt like a long-awaited release. That night, as usual, I brought Aaron some fruit. His room was dim, with faint music playing. As soon as I entered, the door locked behind me. Aaron was lazily leaning against it. He was tall, and when he moved closer, he carried the energy of youth, full of vitality. I instinctively stepped back. He took my wrist from behind and walked me toward the center of the room, chuckling and teasing me for being useless. That's when I saw the cake he had prepared and the expensive dress he had bought. "It's for you." I was at a loss. "Thank you, but I don't think I can wear this dress." "Keep it for later, there's a university ball when school starts, you'll need it then." I didn't say anything. The truth was, my score was 16 points lower than Aaron's. Madam said it wouldn't be a problem for me to get into B City University. Mom was thrilled. This summer, I asked Madam for time off to do part-time work, and she didn't stop me. Aaron was in a good mood too and didn't stop me either. I stopped following him around. One day, while working, I ran into Hardy. He had forgotten his phone at home. I bought him a coffee. He gave me an analysis of the majors and job prospects at a city university. We sat outside the coffee shop. And then, Aaron appeared, catching us in the act. His gaze was full of mockery, and his voice was cold when he told me to come over. My face turned bright red. After thanking Hardy, I followed Aaron out. On the way, Aaron asked me, "So you just want to get close to Hardy?" I explained, "No, he forgot his wallet, and it's too hot, so I bought him a coffee." Aaron's face darkened. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Would Hardy, with his intelligence, forget his wallet when he goes out?" I murmured, "Whether he has his wallet or not doesn't matter. I used my own money to buy him the coffee." Aaron's expression instantly became cold as he questioned me. "You've known me for 10 years and gave me a pen worth $60. You've only known Hardy for how long and you bought him a coffee worth 20? I was speechless. My mind was blank, trying to figure out how he knew the pen cost 60 yuan. So awkward. I tried to change the subject. "Anyway, it's just buying a coffee for a friend. What's the problem?" Aaron shifted slightly, furrowing his brow as he gave a quiet, mocking laugh. "You're calling Hardy your friend?" I didn't answer. He wasn't really my friend, after all. To him, we were just classmates. But I didn't understand why Aaron was so angry. Unable to argue with him, I lowered my head and stayed silent. I leaned back in the seat, closed my eyes, and tried to let the time pass quickly. Aaron, still angry, said, "Get out of the car, now." It was already dark, and I was nervous. But I was even more afraid of making Aaron even angrier, so I quickly got out of the car. Thankfully, it was only a 30-minute walk home. That night, Aaron posted a picture on Instagram, holding hands with someone. His friends immediately commented, "Oh, is this the campus beauty?" I remembered that the campus beauty had always liked Aaron. They had graduated, so it wasn't surprising that they were together. From that night on, Aaron stopped talking to me. Whether I asked him what he wanted to eat, or told him where I'd placed the clothes I'd sorted out, or offered to bring him fruit, he ignored me completely. It was peaceful, in a way. The day before the application deadline, Aaron passed by my door, but he didn't call out to me. Instead, my mom told me what major I needed to select. Mom eagerly asked, "Did you hear that?" I nervously replied. The door was open, so of course, I could hear him. How childish. I quietly changed my application to a city university. 20 days went by, and Aaron still hadn't spoken to me. I told my mom I wanted to go to the school early, and Aaron overheard me as he came downstairs. That night, his friends arranged a gathering, and a group of them came to the restaurant where I was working part-time. In the private room, I handed them the menu. His friends teased me. "Regina, if you don't make up with him, he's really going to be with someone else. Can you really stand it?" I glanced at the time. I still had to go to the front desk for my shift. I quietly said sorry to Aaron. Though I didn't even know what I had done wrong. I had apologized so many times over the years. The reason didn't matter anymore, I had already forgotten. Now, finally, I could leave. His friend smiled and urged Aaron. "Anyway, Hardy is going to a city university, so you won't see him again." "Yeah, he's bound to marry for the family business, he's never going to be with Regina." Aaron's expression softened a little. He glanced at me, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Forget it, pack your bags, and let's go to school tomorrow." I didn't ask Aaron why he was going to school early too. I just obediently agreed. At home, I packed all of Aaron's things. He was lying on the bed, complaining that I packed too much for him. I took everything out. He frowned. "You're the same, don't bring so much. You can buy things when you get there." I nodded. Suddenly, Aaron smirked. "Where's my pants? You haven't packed them yet?" It took me a moment to realize he was talking about his underwear. I never touched his personal items. Aaron lazily spoke. "They're new. Go pack them for me." I glanced at the time. I had to catch the bus, so I didn't want to waste any more time. I quickly went to pack his underwear. I placed them into the suitcase with my fingers, my face slightly flushed. Aaron was in a good mood, playing games with his friends. As soon as I stepped out, Aaron lazily spoke again. "Meet at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late." I absent-mindedly replied and closed the door. Later that night, I took the packed suitcase and left. Aaron had no idea that I had always intended to apply to a city university. I had even bought my train ticket for tonight's trip there. Before bed, I asked my mom to bring the fruit to Aaron's room. As for work, Mom had quit a few days ago after speaking with Madam. She said she'd worked here for so many years and wanted to go with me to explore other cities. Madam didn't try to keep her but asked her to finish this month. She also told my mom to keep it a secret and not tell Aaron yet. We would wait until Aaron had registered at university and everything was settled. I got on the train and sent a message to my mom. Then I hesitated for a moment, looking at Aaron's phone number. B City was in the south, A City was in the north. From now on, with one of us in the south and the other in the north, Aaron and I probably wouldn't have any more connections. I thought about it and blocked him, deleting everything in one go. Suddenly, my mind felt empty. Even the breeze felt sweet now. It was filled with freedom and longing. When I got off the bus, I realized there was a huge temperature difference between the two cities. Some people had already put on thick jackets. I spent the day getting familiar with the school and the nearby streets. For the first time, I had a roommate I could actually talk to. It was the third day after registration. I ran into Hardy on the street behind the school. He said he wanted to thank me for treating him to coffee last time, so today he was treating me to a meal. That day, Hardy, who never posts on Instagram, surprisingly uploaded a picture of the dishes, and my rabbit hairband showed up on my wrist in the corner of the photo. When Aaron saw Hardy's Instagram post, he had just finished registering at B City University. A discomfort settled in his chest, and he had to take a few deep breaths to calm down. He had made plans to meet Regina on registration day, so he woke up early. But when he went downstairs, Regina wasn't there. Mandy stammered that Regina had something to do and had gone back home. Aaron felt a sudden unease. Then, he found out that Regina had blocked his number. Aaron laughed bitterly in anger. He walked to Regina's room, and everything of hers had been completely cleared out. She left without a trace. There was a sense of urgency in her departure. Aaron's hand, holding the suitcase, trembled. His worst fear was that Regina had secretly changed her university preferences. Maybe she had even gone to a city university, the one Hardy had applied to. Suppressing his fury, Aaron went upstairs, planning to see if Regina had left him any message. As expected, there was nothing. Aaron dug through his backpack for his ID, planning to go find her. His mother came over, holding a bowl of fruit, and glanced at him calmly. "It's too late. You should head to B City University for registration first." Aaron sneered coldly. "So, you knew all along, and you and Regina kept it from me?" His mother shrugged. "I told Mandy to keep it from you, not Regina. Don't blame her." Aaron's face instantly became expressionless, his fingers tightening until his knuckles turned white. His mother sighed and was about to leave. But after a few steps, she hesitated and turned back. "Aaron, I want you to live for yourself, but you also have to allow others to do the same. Regina isn't your property. She has the right to make her own choices. You've spent so much time together, maybe some distance will help you both understand your hearts better." Aaron's eyes reddened as he fought to suppress his anger. His chest was rising and falling sharply. After a while, he took a deep breath. "You should have told me earlier. You shouldn't have kept it from me." His mother blinked innocently. I'm really innocent here. If I had told you, you would have stopped Regina from applying to a city university. And then you would have caused a big scene. Either you would have followed her to a city, or you would have forced her to go with you. Aaron clenched his teeth in displeasure and kicked over the sofa. His mother continued in a relaxed tone, in the end, someone would have really lost Regina. Aaron closed his eyes slowly, his expression drained of color. He didn't argue. His mother walked in and said, "Going to be city is your dream. As a mother, I don't want you to give it up for anyone. But Regina also has her own dreams. I think Mandy feels the same way." She glanced at the overturned sofa, her voice softening. "Okay, pack your things. Don't scare Mandy. You should go to be city university now." Aaron's mind only registered the words losing Regina and scaring Mandy. In the following days, Aaron pretended to be normal during the day, but couldn't sleep at night. Mandy seemed to notice his unease and kept carefully observing his emotions, speaking cautiously. Aaron responded politely and occasionally asked about Regina. Mandy seemed surprised by his sudden change, so she talked more than usual. Aaron learned that Mandy was planning to rent a place near a city university with Regina, and they would look for small business opportunities nearby. He also heard that Regina was happy, had made a new roommate, and was busy familiarizing herself with every street on campus. In short, she wasn't upset or reluctant. Aaron hastily ate a few bites of food and returned to his room. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to hold back any longer if he stayed. It turned out that in Regina's heart, he wasn't important at all. He was as unnecessary as the family dog. Even the dog was reminded by Regina to feed it on time and water the plants in the yard. But there was no mention of him, Aaron. Aaron felt his chest was about to crack open. He spent every day counting the time in his room. B City University started 3 days later than a city university. When Aaron arrived in B City and settled in, their small group chat exploded. Someone had saved Hardy's Instagram post. It was rare for him to post a picture of a meal, just ordinary dishes. But in the bottom right corner, a pale wrist was visible, with Aaron's familiar rabbit hairband on it. Everyone began speculating that it was Hardy's girlfriend. Aaron coldly typed a response in the chat, "It's not." The group fell silent instantly. With those 2 words, everyone understood immediately who the person in the photo was. The only person who could catch Aaron's attention besides Regina was her. Soon, everyone knew that she and Hardy had gone to a city university. No one wanted to anger Aaron, so the group chat returned to normal. Aaron saved the photo at the airport, zoomed in on the wrist and the rabbit hairband, and took a screenshot. It was the one he had bought with Regina at a jewelry store after graduation. They were going to eat, and Regina wanted to buy a hairband to tie her hair. Aaron went in and bought the rabbit hairband for her. Seeing the hairband again slightly eased the anxiety that had been building up in Aaron for nearly 2 weeks. After the meal, Hardy said he had just registered yesterday and wasn't familiar with the school's layout yet. I walked him back to the male dormitory. On the way, Hardy told me about some famous sites in a city. I quietly listened. On the way back from dropping him off, I called my mother to share what had been going on recently. I had also looked at a few apartments nearby. Once she came, I planned to rent one and move out to live with her. My mother sounded in good spirits, though she had some matters to attend to back home and would need to go back for a while. She wouldn't be able to come to a city for another month. Toward the end of our conversation, my mother hesitated and brought up Aaron. She said she was relieved. She thought Aaron would be really angry when he found out I left without saying goodbye, but instead, he'd been quiet, staying in his room reading, preparing for university, and seemed to be looking forward to going to B City. He'd asked her about the time every now and then. He occasionally mentioned me, but didn't say much. I responded, feeling strangely empty inside. But after all these years, I'd finally made my own choice. I should be happy, right? I shook my head and thought about it. Maybe it was because I had been with Aaron for too long that I felt this way. But in time, I would get over it. The most important thing now was to focus on my studies. To work hard and become better. That night, the wind howled outside the window, and the temperature dropped a bit. After finishing my classes, I returned to the dorm and read for a while. In the haze of concentration, I heard bursts of excitement from my roommates. Oh my gosh, which department is that handsome guy downstairs from? So good looking. Wow, he's been standing there for quite a while. He must be waiting for his girlfriend. That's so sweet. Someone just went to ask for his number, and he politely declined. Ingrid, my closest roommate, grabbed my arm and dragged me to the window. Regina, look. This is the standard your future boyfriend has to meet. I laughed and glanced downstairs. Under the dim streetlight opposite our dorm building stood a tall, lean figure, surrounded by a few girls. He had his head slightly lowered, giving me a clear view of his perfectly chiseled side profile. His expression seemed calm, almost aloof. After a while, the others dispersed. Then, he slowly looked up and met my gaze. When I recognized who it was, my heart skipped a beat, and my knees felt weak. I clutched Ingrid's hand tightly. It was Aaron. What was he doing here? He was supposed to be in City B today, for registration. Ingrid noticed my reaction and teased me with a grin. Do you like him? Should I shamelessly go and get his number for you? Before she could finish, Aaron's cool, steady voice rang out from below. It wasn't loud, but it was perfectly audible from our second-floor window. Regina, can you come down? Ingrid grabbed me and started shaking me wildly. The next second, she shoved me toward the door. Go, Regina. Who would have thought you were hiding such a treasure? I'll ask for the details tomorrow. I was flustered. On my way downstairs, I deliberately left my coat behind, planning to go down and come back quickly. Aaron seemed to have grown taller. I did my best to suppress my nervousness and greeted him casually. What brings you here? Visiting a friend? Aaron didn't answer immediately. He stared at me deeply for a moment before speaking softly. I'm hungry. Can you take me out for a meal? Was he asking me? Aaron used to make decisions for me as if it were the most natural thing in the world. This felt different, oddly polite, even uncertain. It was like a boss who'd always been overbearing suddenly becoming considerate. I didn't know how to refuse. He had traveled all this way, just to ask me to take him out to eat. A meal wouldn't be a problem, but I'd already made dinner plans with Ingrid. Sorry, I've already planned to eat with my roommate. Before I could finish, Ingrid appeared behind me, holding my coat and shoving it into my hands. She greeted Aaron warmly. Hi, I'm Ingrid, Regina's roommate. Aaron responded politely, Aaron. I'm Regina's high school classmate. Ingrid shot me a mischievous smile. I'm just here to tell you I can't make it anymore. I've got a date tonight. Sorry, babe. I nodded. Ingrid had been crushing on this guy for a long time, it was a big deal for her. After she left, I put on my coat and took Aaron out onto the street. I mentally calculated how much I could afford to spend while renting a place, trying to figure out where to take Aaron. He spotted a restaurant down the alley and walked right in. It wasn't until we were seated that I realized it was the same place I'd recently visited with Hardy. The prices were reasonable, and the food was decent. Aaron even chose the same private booth. During the meal, Aaron barely ate, spending most of the time on his phone. I, on the other hand, made sure nothing went to waste and ended up overeating. Afterward, I asked him when he planned to head back. He set his phone down and spoke slowly. Aren't you going to ask why I came here? Just straight to when I'm leaving? I muttered, I already asked downstairs, but you didn't answer. Aaron's gaze flickered. It was only then that I noticed he hadn't just grown taller, he looked thinner, and his complexion wasn't great. He looked unwell. Aaron spoke softly, I had some business here. I'll leave tomorrow night. I hummed an acknowledgement. When we left the restaurant, Aaron stood by the door, waiting for me to settle the bill. Unlike in high school, when he would have impatiently paid himself, this time he waited calmly. After paying 169 yuan, a splurge for me, I felt a strange sense of accomplishment. At least he wouldn't say anything rude or criticize me now, right? Relieved, I took a deep breath. As for where to go next, Aaron didn't say. I ended up wandering the campus with him, aimlessly strolling. Aaron spent most of the time taking photos of the basketball court, tree-lined paths, the unique architecture, and me. When he raised his phone to snap a picture of me, I instinctively stepped back. I'm not wearing makeup. It's not much of a difference. You always look like this. I protested, no way. Ingrid says I look better with makeup. Aaron chuckled softly, a lazy, almost teasing laugh. You've only been here a few days, and you've already started wearing makeup? As we reached a bend in the tree-lined path, Aaron suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. Caught off guard, I stumbled into his chest. I froze, my breath hitching. His presence was overpowering, warm, intense, and slightly dangerous. I tried to squirm away, but Aaron held me tighter. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I'd expected him to mock me, maybe insult me. But I never thought he'd hug me. His scent was subtle and pleasant. What was wrong with me, noticing how he smelled at a time like this? My voice trembled. Aaron, let go of me. Aaron sounded weak. No. My legs are going numb. Just hold on a little longer. No way. Let me go. Aaron sighed, his voice low and tired. Regina, I'm sick. I froze. I haven't eaten properly in half a month. I can't sleep. I've had a fever. You should see a doctor in City B. The medical care there is excellent. Aaron inhaled deeply and let out a bitter laugh. You really don't care about me at all, do you? I said nothing. My legs were genuinely giving out. When Aaron finally released me, he grabbed my wrist and spun me around. In the next instant, his warm lips pressed against mine. I was stunned, frozen in place. His kiss grew fiercer as I tried to pull away. He caught the back of my neck, pulling me closer, kissing me even more deeply. Panicking, I shoved him away and slapped him. His head tilted from the impact, but he didn't seem to mind. His long, slender fingers brushed over his reddened lips. I felt my face burning, words of anger stuck in my throat. Aaron softly apologized. Sorry. It was the first time Aaron had ever sincerely apologized to me. Before, he'd always brushed things off with a casual laugh and a half-hearted, my bad. I was exasperated. If sorry worked, then. He cut me off with a playful suggestion. Then you could kiss me back as revenge? I pressed my lips together, too angry to respond. I left him standing there and walked back toward the dorm. Behind me, Aaron called out, my flight's tomorrow night. Will you come see me off? I didn't look back or answer. I couldn't sleep after returning to the dorm. The next morning, my lips still felt sore. Ingrid noticed my dazed expression and clung to me, asking about Aaron. I briefly described those years taking care of him. He was my employer, and I was just a small-time worker. Ingrid gave me a sly look. You don't actually think he sees you as just an assistant, do you? What do you mean? It's obvious he likes you. Aaron likes me? Impossible. His disdain for me was always written on his face. Last night, maybe he was just angry. I vaguely implied I might go to City B, which likely upset him. Seeing my disbelief, Ingrid hugged me. Trust me, he likes you. Maybe his dismissiveness is just his way of caring. I felt exhausted. If this is his way of showing affection, I could do without it. After class, I opened Instagram and saw Aaron's post. He'd uploaded pictures of the dishes we had last night, with my bunny hair tie visible on the table. I hadn't noticed when he took the photo. I thought he'd been on his phone the entire time. The angle of the photo reminded me of a similar one Hardy had taken. Feeling unsettled, I closed my phone. Hardy passed by and greeted me. He asked if Aaron was around and suggested we grab a meal together. I told him Aaron was leaving tonight. Hardy nodded, but his gaze lingered on my lips. Embarrassed, I explained, I accidentally bumped into something last night. Hardy smiled faintly. I heard he's pretty busy with his studies. Didn't expect him to make time to visit. I just smiled without replying. That afternoon, I got a call from the landlord of the apartment I'd viewed earlier. The apartment was close to school and warmly furnished, but slightly over budget. The landlord offered to lower the rent if I agreed to a long-term lease. A long lease wasn't an issue, and the location would be convenient for my mom's business. After class, I signed the rental contract and called my mom to share the news. She said she'd move in at the end of the month. Time flew by. While waiting for her arrival, I stayed in the dorm and relished the sense of community. Ingrid taught me how to do makeup and style my outfits. She had an impeccable sense of fashion and a tall, model-like figure. Spending time with her raised my aesthetic standards significantly. Occasionally, I'd dream about Erin's kiss, as if it were from another lifetime. At the end of the month, my mom moved in with a lot of stuff and mentioned a friend had recommended her for a company's administrative position. I'm older now and slow at learning. Honestly, I feel embarrassed about applying, she said. I reassured her, promising to help her learn until she was confident. My mom had always insisted I save the money from my part-time jobs. She'd covered my tuition herself. With those savings, I bought her a computer so she could practice at home. She worked even harder than me, often staying up late to practice typing under the warm glow of a small desk lamp. She even started planning to buy a small house near my workplace someday. Motivated, I picked up a part-time job, and we began saving for that goal together. Several months later, school was on break, and we planned to spend Christmas in City A. Hardy mentioned his family was traveling abroad and asked if he could join us for dinner. He'd visited occasionally this semester and was on friendly terms with my mom. However, she seemed hesitant about the idea. "You're a single young woman," she said. "It's already hard to explain when he visits occasionally. If he comes over for Christmas, the neighbors might think he's your boyfriend." I hadn't considered that, but rejecting Hardy outright felt a bit rude. He'd helped me a lot. While I was mulling it over, Ingrid called and suggested, "Tell him your boyfriend is coming. If he doesn't mind, he can join." Laughing, I replied, "Where am I supposed to find a boyfriend on such short notice?" "That handsome guy from last time, what's his name?" "Aaron." "Yes, Aaron." I chuckled. "If Aaron comes, the neighbors will misunderstand all the same." Before I could decide, Hardy messaged me to say he had an urgent family matter and couldn't make it. With mom at work, I spent the week lazing around and eating whatever was convenient. Around that time, City A was buzzing about the grand opening of a major corporation's branch. Celebrities and socialites attended the event, including an actress from my favorite drama. Ingrid, a huge fan, begged me to get her an autographed photo. Early that morning, I headed out, planning to shop before the signing event in the afternoon. The mall was packed, and amid the crowd, I spotted Aaron. He stood at the center of the opening ceremony, looking far more mature than I remembered. Clad in a tailored black suit, he exuded a calm authority, effortlessly navigating conversations after stepping off the stage. Aaron had always been quick to adapt and learn. In just a few months, he'd already established his company. After the ceremony, he disappeared backstage. I grabbed lunch and attended the signing event. The actress was stunning and gracious, patiently adding Ingrid's name to the autograph. When I sent Ingrid a photo of it, she was ecstatic. On my way to the subway, I passed an alley and saw Aaron standing by a luxury car, his head lowered. Sensing my gaze, he turned. For a moment, I wasn't sure whether to greet him or pretend I hadn't seen him. After the awkwardness of our last kiss and months of no contact, this was unexpected. Aaron approached me and handed me something. It was an autographed photo from the actress, with my name on it, along with a cheerful message. "I saw you in line earlier and got this for you. But the one you got only had your friend's name," he said. I had wanted one, but with the crowd, I didn't want to trouble her. "Thank you," I said, taking it. He asked, softly, "I'm hungry. Can you take me to eat?" "What? Doesn't his company feed their CEO?" I brought him to a small restaurant near campus known for its great food at reasonable prices. Aaron ate heartily and seemed in good spirits. Casually, he said, "These past months have been hectic. I'd hoped to visit City A every week, but I barely managed once a month." I kept eating without commenting. "He's been coming to City A every month?" "Must have been for work." Then, Aaron lowered his voice. "Regina, I want to apologize." "For what?" He met my eyes, his gaze somber. "For everything that made you uncomfortable or upset in the past." "I'm sorry." I set down my chopsticks, caught off guard by his sudden sincerity. Aaron continued, his voice heavy with regret. "I didn't know how to interact with you. My stubbornness and methods were wrong. I'm truly sorry, Regina." I recalled the past and understood that Aaron didn't grow up in a typical family environment. His parents despised each other. Their marriage was more of a partnership. They wanted a divorce, but couldn't go through with it, tangled in countless complicated ties. In elementary school, Aaron got into fights because someone called him a wild child that no one wanted. He was stubborn and volatile, doing things his own way. However, his mother was always lenient with him, rarely scolding him. Perhaps it was her way of compensating for him. But she was often either working or traveling, leaving Aaron with little time to see her, which gradually twisted his personality. When I stayed at Aaron's house, I did enjoy a life far beyond what I originally had, and because he attended the best elementary school in the city, I benefited too. I could take care of his daily needs, but I didn't want to be his emotional punching bag. I spoke softly, some harm, once done, can't be erased with an apology. Aaron froze slightly, his narrow eyes turning a bit red. His Adam's apple bobbed as he said quietly, "I'm sorry." I stood up and looked at him. "I accept your apology. Now go. Don't come back again." Aaron suddenly stood up, blocking my path and staring straight at me. I instinctively stepped back in fear. Aaron's outstretched hand froze in midair. After a while, his expression calmed, but his eyes gradually turned misty, his face pale, and his voice carried a trace of pleading. "Can we start over?" As he spoke, he reached out nervously. "Hi, I'm Aaron." Before I could respond, the waiter interrupted us, asking if we were done eating and if they could clear the table. I bypassed Aaron's hand and walked out. At the counter, I noticed the bill was 328 yuan. Had I really ordered so much without realizing it? I didn't look back and walked straight home. That night, I inexplicably fell ill with a fever. Mom, whose company had recently relocated, bought me medicine. The labels, though scribbled, clearly indicated the dosage and frequency. I never saw Aaron again. Life seemed to gradually return to normal. Meanwhile, Aaron's business grew far larger than I had imagined, and I often saw news about him online. But I didn't pay much attention, focusing instead on myself, studying, working part-time, and planning for life after graduation. In the second semester of my sophomore year, Hardy announced he was going abroad, as arranged by his family. Before he left, we had dinner with Ingrid. As he got into the car, Hardy suddenly laughed. "Regina, some people are real lunatics." I didn't understand and thought I misheard him. Hardy just brushed it off, told me to take care, and drove away. Comfortable days always fly by. As the seasons changed, both Mom and I grew in many ways. By the start of my senior year, Mom had been promoted to manager. Though not a high position, it was the first time she felt truly recognized by her colleagues. We decided to celebrate in a big way. During the celebration, Mom asked about my plans after graduation. I said I intended to stay in City A, as a boss I met during my part-time job had referred me to a local HR position at a big company. Hearing this, Mom smiled. "That's great. After all these years, I've grown used to City A. With you here, City A feels like home." After saying this, Mom hesitated for a moment before asking, "What about Aaron?" I replied nonchalantly, "We haven't been in touch for a long time. Aaron wasn't all bad. He just lacked proper guidance, and his life was so different from ours. But deep down, he's kind. That stray dog was something he picked up, you know. He kept complaining but still told me to take care of it." I didn't respond. Mom then told me that after I enrolled in City A, she had once talked to Aaron. Not fully understanding young people's relationships, but sensing Aaron's unusual feelings for me and my unease, she had taken on the role of an elder for the first time to tell Aaron that we weren't a good match, our families, personalities, and lives were too different. She asked him not to come to City A so I could focus on my studies. Mom recalled how silent Aaron had been that day, so silent that she thought he hadn't heard her. After a long pause, Aaron politely replied, "I understand. Thank you for your efforts all these years." Then, as Mom left with her bags, Aaron insisted his driver take her home and even bought gifts for my grandparents. I chuckled. Well, at least he's polite. Mom looked at me and shook her head, saying nothing more. In the second month of my senior year, Aaron's close friend Jeff came to City A. He even visited the backstreet near my school and texted me, asking which place had the best food. Since I wasn't busy, I took him out. Jeff was eager to try Aaron's favorite dish, which he had been eating for years without fail. I froze. Though our school wasn't far from Aaron's company, most working people would choose to eat closer to their office. While eating, Jeff sighed, "So you're really not talking to Aaron anymore, huh? In high school, we were so immature, always teasing you." "I'm sorry." I smiled. "It's fine. It's all in the past. I'm doing well now." Jeff seemed annoyed. "If you can let go of us, why can't you forgive Aaron?" I was stunned. He kept rambling, "At least don't ignore him. Even being regular friends would be fine. You have no idea how much Aaron sacrificed to open his company in City A. He even fell out with his dad and didn't speak to him for half a year. The company was supposed to be in another city, but Aaron insisted on City A. To build connections, he attended countless business events and did everything he could. He even went head-to-head with Hardy's family for a project, only to give it back so Hardy could study abroad." I was taken aback. "Are you saying Hardy going abroad had something to do with Aaron?" Jeff got flustered. "That's not Aaron's fault. Hardy isn't exactly innocent. He knew Aaron planned to go to University B and even renovated a villa near the school for you, yet he still encouraged you to come to City A. You remember how people gossiped about you after Hardy gave you his school uniform, right? You think he didn't know what that would do to your reputation? But he did it anyway. In the end, Aaron went around beating up anyone who whistled or gossiped about you to stop it." I suddenly remembered that night when Aaron came home with blood on his hands. I fell silent. Jeff sighed. "Aaron's only flaw is that he doesn't know how to express himself. Let me be honest with you, the photo Aaron posted on IG with interlocked fingers? It wasn't with the school beauty. It was with you." On the way back, I felt dazed. The only time Aaron and I had been alone, and he could have secretly taken a picture, was when he got angry about Hardy lending me his uniform, made me do endless tasks, and I ended up falling asleep on the sofa in his room. He's insane. I felt both angry and exasperated. Not only did my head hurt terribly, but I was also completely drained. When I got downstairs, I saw Mom stepping out of Aaron's car. Aaron, holding some bags, was about to go upstairs. When he saw me, he said goodbye to Mom and left. After Mom came home, she seemed a little guilty. She quietly told me that it was Aaron who suggested she start as a secretary, saying that running her own business would be too exhausting. But it wasn't Aaron who arranged the job, it was the lady who recommended it to her. Seeing me frown, Mom quickly added, "I earned this promotion through my own hard work, it has nothing to do with him. And today, I really just ran into him by chance. He gave me a ride because I had too many things to carry." I sighed. I knew about the job situation. I had seen how much Mom had sacrificed for this job. But still, Aaron really did keep quite a lot from me. I didn't want to think about it anymore. Mom tugged at my sleeve. "Regina, I'm not defending Aaron, but I've seen how much he's changed in the past few years. Of course, I can't interfere with your young people's matters. As a mother, I just want you to be healthy and happy." I smiled and hugged her. Half a month later, I received a call from Jeff, saying that Aaron was sick and asking if I could go check on him. I don't know why, but I agreed. When I arrived at Aaron's apartment, Jeff opened the door and left right away. Aaron was sitting in his study wearing a shirt, attending one video conference after another. He was coughing from time to time, looking pretty bad. I waited for nearly 2 hours before Aaron finally walked out of the study, looking weary. When he saw me and realized Jeff wasn't around, he quickly understood. Aaron's voice was hoarse. "How long have you been here?" I replied softly, 2 hours. He seemed a little surprised. 2 hours? I got straight to the point, if you're sick, you should rest. Go to the hospital, your health is the most important. He barely managed a smile, looking exhausted. There's just too much to do, everything piled up together. I'm hungry, do you want to eat together? I said, later, let's go to the hospital first. I stood up, waiting for him to change, and he slowly walked toward me, then reached out and pulled me into his arms. I didn't move, and he hugged me even tighter. His voice cracked, and warm tears slid down my neck. I'm really hungry. I hesitated, then awkwardly patted his back. All right, let's eat first. Then I'll take you to the hospital. After we came back from the hospital, Aaron fell asleep holding my hand in the car. His sleeping profile looked especially innocent and beautiful, with his long black lashes fluttering slightly, as if his sleep wasn't very peaceful. The driver mentioned that Aaron hadn't had a good rest in a long time, suffering from insomnia and work stress, and he'd been taking medication for it, but it didn't seem to be helping much. I gently reached out and touched his head. He closed his eyes and nuzzled my hand. After that day, we never mentioned the past again. Before he left for work in the morning, he was still anxious. He asked if I could have lunch with him after class. I suddenly smiled, feeling at ease, and stretched out my hand to Aaron. Let's start over. I'm Regina. Aaron looked at me, momentarily stunned, then took my hand. I'm Aaron. The first thing I did when I got back to school was sign up for a membership at Aaron's favorite restaurant. I thought, we'll probably come here often in the future. With Aaron. With Mom. Or maybe, together. The end.